In plain sight. Take one. Action.
Were the very first Indian graduate architect in South Africa in 1969. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Okay, outside let me say that it was not my career of choice. In those days, one didn't. I didn't know that after schooling I would have to get a permit for everything else that I did. Where I lived, where I schooled, what I did. At the time when I entered, the new acts that were being passed in Parliament for education of when they termed non-whites. And you had to get a permit to go to university. I used to apply to Johannesburg, Witwatersrand University, Cape Town University, Natal University. All the other universities one couldn't apply. Obviously I had difficulty with English. It took me some 2 or 3 years to get used to it. So I didn't go into any literally choice of language courses. Like if I did law, I wouldn't be able to go. But anything that was where I could use my sight and hands, which was medicine, would help me. In the third year, I then applied to Lahore in Pakistan for a course in medicine. I was accepted there. Completed that first year, called it intermediate medical course. I came back to South Africa on holiday, but I also, just shortly after that, I contracted encephalitis and I was hospitalized for some 6 months. Short story, I then applied to the Minister to give me a permit on health grounds. It was declined. I then decided to take the Minister to court on those grounds. And I was then accepted, but not for medicine. Before the court case, they told me, we'll give you another course, but we can't give you medicine because there's only 3 seats available, or rather it was 5 seats available for medicine, and those are already taken. And preference is given to those students who've just come out of matric, and you have matriculated 2 years ago. I then said, what can you offer me? And they said, well, we can give you architecture or engineering. I chose architecture thinking that once I'm at the university, I will switch over. Anyway, I didn't realize at that time that I was the first person applying for that course. And we were never exposed to that course. And in between also, while doing architecture, there was a bricklaying course that I applied for. And my documents were torn up, including the check for the course. And it was returned to me saying that you know that the bricklaying course can only be done by white people. A non-white cannot cannot lay bricks. He can pass bricks on to the bricklayer, but he cannot lay bricks himself. Anyway, I was worried because how am I going to do architecture? And I might not even be able to supervise over the white builders. But anyway, life is a game of patience. And I didn't want to make a bigger issue out of this whole thing, but I continued the course. I also realized that I had always used to get high marks for subjects that required illustration. For example, if I had to draw a leaf of a plant or describe a chemical process in my physics in Lahore already, that I would get the highest subjects in the illustrations. And I learned something about architecture, or rather about life, that this subject was teaching me how to design my living space, whether it was working in an office. I appreciated the comfort level the comfort levels of life that an architect provides, whether it's for medicine. A doctor cannot live without a house. A lawyer cannot live without an office. So at the end of the day, I was learning about all these other people's occupations. And then the architect realized that the architect is involved in every facet of life, whether he's designing an operating table or a medical facility. He needs to know what he wants.
The first memory I had of my dad at university was when he used to take me to university. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I used to wait for him on the Great Hall steps till he's done with his lecture, and that was probably the earliest time that I could remember. After that, I always enjoyed my dad's music because he used to love listening to Simon and Garfunkel, and I think I know all the lyrics of all the songs of Simon and Garfunkel. Also, I remembered the Beatles as well. I think I was probably 6 years old and a fan of the Beatles. So that was something, one of my childhood memories. After 1 or 2 years, we moved to 19th Street. And that was where his first practice was. And the only thing I remember of the practice was he had this huge poster with two eyes in it, and it was quite interesting. And his lounge set was all inflatable yellow chairs and inflatable red chairs that he used to have in his office. And what I do remember is he used to teach me how to answer the telephone, and he used to say, "Good evening, this is 353970, and that was the telephone number of the office. So I think I was with my dad, quite, like always good memories with my dad and his green Beetle, and lots of other memories with going on site with him. And I used to hold up the ruler for the site surveys. And I think it was his first projects in Roshni and Heidelberg, where he used to make me stand at the end of the site, and then I used to hold this ruler up and he used to used to survey the site. So the earliest memories of my dad were really a lot of fun, a lot of going out and going to see the different sites. And Johannesburg at that time had lots of trees that I remember as well.
able to apply that. I did my own house. It's a house that I said, it was a brick house, and again a brick. When I had received that bricklayer's course, and that I couldn't do that course, I then ended up, for the first 10 years of my practice, I didn't use a brick which came from a member of the South African Brick Association. And gratefully for that also, the merit awards that I got in the early years when I used this brick, they've all won merit awards. Be it my own house, which I built in my first year of practice, which is also the house that this office has been designed with the same brick. It's a semi-faced brick. It was cheaper, and our stock red has won an award for them. And Koro Brick then asked me why am I not using their bricks, and I gave them the explanation. For many years, I was using this, called it the fair-faced brick, in the early in the early years of my career, and we've got a lot of cooperation from Koro Brick. With the natural brick that one sees here, there's so much color variation that gave the interest to the project. I was so used to that kind of texture that I could achieve with those bricks, that when it came to dealing with the members of the South African Brick Association, I was missing that, because the general face brick is very monotone, and what the brick suppliers were able to do is to get 3 different colors from different yards that had, red soil. For example, one of them came from Natal, from the Durban branch. There were some from Rietvlei here in Pretoria, and the third one, I can't remember the name of the brickyard anymore. But from the stockpile to the bricklayer, they take a wheelbarrow of bricks, and put it onto that brick heap, and the next color next to it. Don't pick and choose what you give to the bricklayer. The bricklayer was just, whatever his hands get, he must just apply. In that way we were able to achieve the different colors, 3 different colors being used on the brick, and it gave it that tone, that sort of timeless tone, I call it, because over time, you don't see you don't see one monotone color. It's blended brick, and with that we used it at the mosque, and also we needed to cut it at display where the angle was changed in Koro Brick for a minimum number of bricks that we had to order of a quantity. They would specially shape that brick. That is the interest, but one learns all the time. One never stops learning, and the building itself becomes an experiment at the end of the day. You experiment with it, and I think the clients gain from that experiment, because they get a building that gives them their own particular character and image for the building. central foyer of the project. It is immediately under the minaret. The tower that you see outside, this is immediately under the minaret. There are four portals. The one area goes to the mosque proper. The other one goes to the caretaker's flat and the visitors' quarters on the right. And the third one, which is on our left, is into the administration wing. And the research center itself was the other. So if you've already performed your cleansing function, which is basically it's washing the hands up to the elbow, washing the feet, exposed part of the body, the feet, and the face. This can be done at home, or if you have done it at home, then you can proceed straight to the mosque. If you haven't, then you would come and sit on this stool. And it's all been worked out so that when the tap is functioning, you can reach, your feet are kept apart, and the water dripping will drop into the bowl. The bowl itself has been designed almost 60 years ago by our office, and that is for the foot washing. You can rest your feet here or on the side, and you just turn around, stand up. The globes itself. I attended an auction. It was in Johannesburg. A light fitting company was closing down. It was an Italian company. It was closing down. And among the stock of lights was this one here. They only had the glass, and I bought it for 10 cents a piece. That is some 10, 15 years before this was built. And there's 200 of those globes, the glass that I had. And I didn't know why I bought it, but anyway, it was interesting. And even if one looks at that column, people would sit against brickwork. They would sit against columns. But there's, and normally when people sit, their hair would touch the columns. But with this kind of natural brick, you might pick up some oil stains from the hair or sweat, but it doesn't affect. There I've put a copper band. And this copper guy, he was a quantity surveyor by profession, and he had a hobby of working with copper. So I called him in and I said, can you make me the shape of a moon there? And so he made these patterns. He made that pattern, which I call the jailhouse grid. These are, we say it's 99 names of God, of Allah, and each one has got a meaning. It would be God, like for instance, you say God the compassionate, God the merciful. So all these are, so when you're sitting here, you can read these titles. We are at the fountain on the call it the Qibla wall. Qibla, it's facing Mecca, and what's been created here was ventilation for the inside of the mosque, and the planting that is been put into here is all indigenous plant from in locality, and some of them are from Nelspruit. but you can see the sound of water. You can hear the sound of water, which keeps away the sound from the street. The brickwork, it's the facade that's been created. The apse which you see in the mosque on the center, that is there. But most of all, you know, it invites bird life. And with spring, you can see the flowering of the trees. But at the end of the day, it's the environment that is created from the inside as well as from the outside.
Take two, scene two, action.
Look, I think one of the, the early memories is like when I came, it was just before sort of 94, during the PEC years, and those economically, they were quite tough years. I know when I came, at some point there was just myself and my dad. I think the work had dwindled, the staff had also dwindled, but sort of I slowly worked in, and then slowly, things improved, the economy improved. We had, elections, like a new hope, new beginning, enthusiasm, excitement, and slowly then, slowly as in new projects and new experiences, and it was a great time as well, great learning experience. I think we were lucky. There was basically some small project, and then there were some very large projects. I mean, we had, we even remember working on an airport. Working on the Mpumalanga legislature, some like schools. We did forensics laboratory. So I think we could count ourselves quite blessed, being exposed to such large projects. I used to come into the office as a kid, just to do school projects. And then formally with my, in terms of architecture, then it was, from first year onwards, I used to come, with the spare time, do whatever I could do, just gain some experience. And then when I had to do my practical years, then I came to the office. Initially, it was drawing, and then eventually, like trying to change the systems and work with the systems, learn new things. Obviously, my dad was like a mentor, guide. He would show me how things are done, and I would pick up on them. And I sort of later age, you got used to it. You try and modify what he has done as well. So that's and then slowly I sort of grew into the practice.
I joined the Institute of Architects, South African Institute of Architects, and started addressing the training of architects to bring them to provide for their higher education. And that form of Black Architects Associations, but even before that, is that the Institute should start accepting more architects and not just concentrate on producing draftsmen but qualified architects, because Technicon, the Pretoria Technicon, was involved in employing, and then also together with the International Union of Architects, they came over from Britain, and it was part of to investigate whether black architects are being trained. And we went to all the campuses. It was strange how it was organized by the universities, that they would accept architects from the African continent, train them in South Africa, but make sure that they don't practice in South Africa, they would practice elsewhere. With architects coming over during the boom days of Carter Center, Standard Bank, and all the other buildings. A lot of foreign architects came to South Africa, and I was able to employ people from Austria and Germany. So, but I used them in the early days in preference to somebody wanting to work with me, work in my office, but didn't want to share some facilities in the office with anybody else. But anyway, those were the difficult years. But I've never resented them for that. I just looked at it, gave them time, and until they understood, until they started thinking freely, thinking more broadly about humans, that they're all the same, and also always admiring admiring the politicians that gave their life, that served time in Robben Island. And I've kept in touch with them, all of them, and through Dr. Jasant, Saluji, all of these friends that I've had in Johannesburg and Durban. I've kept in touch with them, but I say it's come a time now that they have taken over and they are running the institute now. Also, a project that we did in partnership with Tshwane University. It was a Pretoria station project. There were many other stations that were Maravastad project is done. Maravastad project was done, but it started off with Rajbansi. But we only did that planning, and afterwards, where we only studied Maravastad in Boom Street and the Belombre station. Eventually, we did it as a joint project. And the project extended right up to Church Street. That means it was an extension. Maravastad, reading on our reports, there was a freeway system that was put through the middle of the whole of Maravastad. Was only freeways, that were an interchange of freeways. That means it was coming down from Pretoria, and that was where all the spaghetti interchange was there. The old Skuman Street and Pretoria Street were a freeway traffic from western side of Transvaal. It is Rustenburg, coming from Rustenburg, Overcame and all those streets, coming through Pretoria, going to Witbank and slicing through the middle of the city. We managed to stop that, and we said, if somebody coming from the western side of the Transvaal and going through to Maputo, why must they be slicing through Pretoria? Why don't you take them around? In that way, we were able to stop the N4 going through Maravastad and reclaimed Maravastad as a project. But in the meantime, they had already demolished all the buildings between Skuman Street and two streets. All the buildings had been demolished, and that's going to be rebuilt. And then they decided to move to the whole city, or rather the businesses upgraded themselves, and they went to establish Fogelberg instead. I then joined the Nest Schools, which is the first international, or rather multiracial schools that were established in South Africa. I joined with them, I was on their board as well, and we started looking to set up the Nest Schools all over the country. And the demand was increasing. Surprisingly, the Fogelberg municipality said to us, we'll give you land free if you come and open your schools. Again, this was opening my eyes to say, that this is same people who didn't want to see a multiracial school. Now we're offering. They were offering a free site, provided we opened up there. That is for the school, next school to be built in Victoria, Johannesburg region. And fortunately, all the members of the board, and Walter Sisulu's daughter was also on that board. And this is where my contact with when Mandela was released, and the politicians started changing. And what was said to the Faruba Council is that will come there, but the name will not be suitable. So they changed that name to Centurion instead. So this is how the names will change. So this is what I'm getting to. What I said earlier was that you can change the people provided you talk to them long enough till they have decided themselves that it is in their interest to change.
IPS Aziz Tayob, scene 15, take 2.
So I'm the youngest son of Aziz Tayob, and as the youngster, it was always fascinating to see what my father did, and I always loved to follow him around. And whenever he was going towards his car, I always ran after him, and I actually said, "Dad, can I come? Can I come?" And so he always looked at me, smiled, and he said, "Okay, come." And what was fun about it was, we went onto site, and initially there were, piles of sand when the foundations were done. So I used to run up the sand, and whenever he went, I would try and go as much as possible with him. And what was amazing as a youngster, I'm talking maybe 4 or 5 years old, I can remember buildings going up. So maybe one day it was foundations, then it was a wall, and my father was always in consultation with, various engineers and builders, and monitoring the brickwork, and looking at what the best design was. So it was always amazing to see what he's done, and I just felt everyone's dad actually does this, and so it was actually awesome to be living through it. And I think over the years what you do is, as you're driving around, you learn to drive, you start to see work that your father has done. And the one thing about my father is that he's always been very highly ethical. And the amount of effort he puts into whatever he does in life, whether it's a family or his work, or even advising or helping people, he's always put he's foremost. And that's one thing I always look up to that and say that my dad really he really makes sure that whatever he does it to the best of his ability. So that's been quite amazing. Earlier I was just mentioning that I really appreciated my own home only after I left to study in Cape Town. And you live in a residential, student residential place with 4 walls. And when I came home after the first 6 months of being at university, I just looked at the colors and the brickwork and the light that came into the house. And at that point I really thought, wow, my father's a real artist. And so that's one of the things. And as time has gone by, when you travel the world or you go through the country, I start to really appreciate what architects in general bring to society. And it's not like we mentioned that it's not just about 4 walls being put up. It's how the building interacts with people. It interacts with the light, the natural resources that make up it's how we enjoy buildings. So I've always basically appreciated my father. And just as a memory, I remember my father saying, in terms of building, he's saying that he always does things and he makes sure that it's done right. Sometimes it might be a difficult decision where the contractor maybe needs to redo something, But my father always said this to me once, and while we were driving, he said that no one might realize the mistake you've made, but he said you'll know. He said every time you see that building, you'll know that you haven't done your best. And that's always been his, I think, driving force for him, is that he never wants to look back at something and saying, you know what, I haven't given it my full capability or my full, education in terms of what he has learned.
We discovered, and also I allow them to stick anything they want, where they want. And they stick there, whatever they want to learn. And so here we've got quite a largish bedroom. And that was original windows that had been left intact, that window. And when I did the addition for the office, you can see it through the corner. So I can see who's arriving at the office, who's knocking at the front door. It's the breezeway. What I learned here, creating the breezeway, I used it for the mosque that we saw. So, these, and yet, if you look at it, it's off-shutter concrete, and there's no paintwork at all.
Well maintenance.
I only did my own offices about this, and I only put in that timber ceiling now, recently, when the winter cold would freeze that slab, and I had to put on a heater in my office, so I put in the wood plus the insulation, stuck it up there. Works. Freedom years, what it meant to me was, there was a register, call it the Transvaal provincial body at the government level. If there were state projects, all the registered architects or engineers or all the professions, there was a register of public works. You volunteered to apply to them for work, and there would be a roster. When it came your turn, you were given that job. Whatever job, there was a job register and the practice registers. And if the project came up and your name came up and they both lined up, then you would get that particular project to do. Anyway, they skipped my name for some 30 years. How it skipped, I didn't question it. All I said, next year I applied again. And so I applied again until I got a project. And that's the first time I started doing the public works project. We were involved in upgrading the central prisons in Victoria. We did the Maravastad building, the upgrading the forensic laboratory. And for the first time, I just needed staff, and there was still not enough architects around. But I've trained approximately 110 architects through my office, and they would come from all over the country. I had architects from Cape Town, Durban. They would all come to my practice. In fact, any non-white architect would come to my office. So I've trained a lot of them. Also, in practice, you come across this so often that, and it's all about appreciating a service. There are many people that said, look, if I get a draftsman, I'm not saying this against the draftsman because they've got their own, but if I got a draftsman and he draws the plan for me and I go there and I build it, why should I pay you, the architect, 6% to do my work? He said, no. The draftsman gave you a piece of paper. He did, his currently is on it. and you gave him his money, it's maybe 1/100th of what you're going to give me. So the one is, I call it a hit and run project. I looked at, quickly did the sketch, and I gave it to you. And I said, but as an architect, I would draw it, I would draw a sketch design until you're happy with the sketch design. And then I'll put it to the municipality. And then I'll invite contractors. I'll select materials. I'll tell you what your windows will look like. I'll tell you what your doors will look like. I'll tell you what your floors will look like. Your walls, the colors that you want, the ceiling, the roof, the overhangs, the rainwater disposal, the fence, everything. I'll look after the building. Tell you what you owe to the contractor for this month. I'll sign it. And I ensure myself that if I have signed incorrectly, you are indemnified. So I pay for the insurance. Surely, he says, man, how long will you take? No, my total service will be from I start to I finish, minimum 12 months, maybe 8 months. But the faster I do it, the less you'll get. And he doesn't come back. And messages float around, the man is 10 times more expensive than the draftsman. So in Laudium, not many people give me work. But I reside in it because it is a quiet place.
IPS Aziz Tayob, scene 6, take 1.
Right, we both are from Brits, and then we got married, and then we went to Lahore. He wanted to become a doctor. So we stayed 1 year there, and we came back. Then he wasn't feeling so well, so he applied for architecture, applied for, but then they accepted him in architecture, and that time we didn't know what is architecture, or we were still young and all that. Yeah. So then we used to study, and he was working very hard, and he was always, he wanted his work perfect, and always very hard. And then I used to help him also with all these projects, and sometime late at night also, because he wanted to go to Durban, for some projects, and printing and everything. Then he goes by flight, and I was always busy. Then we made it for about 58 years, 59. So then I had my first daughter, and he was always busy. And we used to have a nice time, and he used to work hard also. What else must I say?
You used to sew, you used to also bring income. You told me you used to bring income, you used to earn money with. While he was studying,
he used to earn, and I used to work hard. I was staying in Joburg, and then he used to go early in the morning and come at night late. And I used to also have friends. Then I used to, we used to do all this invoicing and put the books in order to how to that, sewing little. But I was always happy to help him also, and I was happy that he's working. I wasn't feeling that he's not helping me in the house or something. I used to feel like he must work hard. Never used to, have problem that why you working so much and you're not going out and all that. It was getting on like that. Had a bureaucracy. So life went on like that until my son became architect. Then I was little not so busy. Then I was busy with the children, looking after them, going to fetch them from school, madrasa, help them everything. That was life, and we were quite happy what he was doing. But he worked very hard, and he was perfect. He wanted everything perfect. You know, he won't accept anything just like that.
And then I think the house, how you got involved.
Oh, he one thing, what he wants, he'll do it. His way. But it was always the right way. What he decided, I was quite happy. You understand? But because I wasn't the woman demanding, like I was demanding this, I want that and that. I was accept it. And I'm quite happy with the house also. We had my all 4 children's wedding in this house. All the people used to, about 200-300 people used to come, used to open the doors there. And you know, everything. Only we never used to hire a hall or, you know, just for the wedding, more than 500-600 people. But for 200-300 people, we used to accommodate them here. And we used to open the house and everything was going very nicely. And people used to always pass by and they used to think, what is this? You know, when they pass outside, it looked like different. But once they come inside, they find it different. So all then people used to come pass by, they come and see the house. Because first it was looking like, you know, front is closed, so they didn't know what is inside.